Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO. This is my second time interviewing Christian Ruf. And at the date of recording this, it was just a few days before we invaded Venezuela in Christian's elite unit. He's from Uncommon Elite. And his special forces unit was the one that went in and did the special operations, if you will, with Venezuela and Maduro. And that happened just a few days after recording this. This guy comes from an elite pedigree background that involves the raids they made on Osama bin Laden and Black Hawk Down. And he's taken his skills and his network and created a very special executive placement where he can bring people out of special forces, and these people are smart and they get stuff done. And he has had an incredible year this past year, making placements in operations, in CEO level, even in sales from special forces. So I'm going to bring him on here shortly. We chit chat a bit. You'll have to just have some patience as we make our way through the initial chit-chatting, and we're going to get down to some great information for you. And Christian Ruf is a great person to know when you're looking for an elite hire or placement in your company. Good morning, Christian.
Morning. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the show.
Good to be back.
I wonder if Barnum and Bailey used to say something like that, right?
Maybe.
Welcome to the Three Rings.
I feel like most of my professional life has been a little bit somewhat of a circus, so I'm used to it. So yeah.
in one of those three rings, huh?
One of those rings, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Christian, for those that don't know you, give us a quick intro.
Yeah, Christian Ruf. I run Uncommon Elite, which is an executive search firm that primarily takes individuals coming out of the special operations communities and puts them in small businesses, largely construction, home services, commercial services, more blue-collar oriented companies.
So your executive search, which is different from both headhunting and recruiting, or sort of a combination of the two, or is it a third peg on that triangle?
Yeah, I had a client actually give me that feedback. He said, you're not really a recruiter, you're not really a headhunter, but you're not also executive search, because we're going all the way up. We go from CEO all the way down to project manager and everything in between.
Yeah.
And the feedback that I've gotten a lot is, we've used executive search and recruiters in the past that take 3 to 4 months. We take like 3 to 4 days. So I don't know how to classify us. So we'll just say headhunting sounds on par with our background. So headhunters, how about that?
But you only recruit or headhunt out of, repeat it again for the audience?
The special operations community. So Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Rangers, CAG.
Wait,
Air Force.
CAG? You can't use acronyms.
Sorry. So if you're, how do I say this? If you've seen the movie Black Hawk Down, the guys that are on the ground, those dudes.
Wait, but what does it stand for?
Contingency Action Group. It's a small unit out of North Carolina that is considered number one ground force in the world.
Okay. It's hard for me to get a good landscaper up here in Cherry Log. Can they do that too?
They're pretty good at precision operations, so I would guess yes.
Good at bed edging.
Yeah.
So tell the audience, just in a few sentences, tell us why you're executive recruiting or headhunting out of this niche. What's your background?
Background is in special operations as well. Was in the military for 10 years, spent the last half of it in an organization called the 160th, also known as the Night Stalkers. It's a helicopter unit based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, that primarily flies more high risk, high threat operations. So the most notably two operations that they were involved with were Black Hawk Down, which is a lot of people have seen the movie, read the story, and also the Osama bin Laden raid.
Yep.
And so I spent time flying an attack helicopter for them.
That was also a great movie, by the way.
Great movie. Great movie.
Yeah. Yeah, really good. So before we get into you and why we have you on here, I just have a question for you. My wife is often remarking that it seems recently, you hear all about private plane fatalities. Now, granted, we don't hear all about private car fatalities, and there's thousands. But do you think the rules are overly lax for flying private planes?
I think people get complacent. I think the rules are pretty stringent. They all have to say, like, the rules that the FAA puts in place are very similar to the rules that the military puts in place as well. Granted, we have additional layers of it. But if I look at every accident that I was aware of or next to or experienced, it all comes down to complacency and pilot error. Very, very seldom is it a mechanical issue. So I don't know the specific statistics off the top of my head, but generally people get themselves into trouble when they've gotten complacent. The times where I found myself in the most trouble, I was complacent, skipped steps. So the rules are there. People just choose not to follow them.
So, I mean, that makes sense, but I guess I'm just going to channel my wife here for a second.
Yeah.
She might say these people have no right flying. They're not trained well enough. And I mean, is that true? I'm sure someone's listening who has a private pilot's license who's going to send me angry email. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking.
I would say generally my friends that are non-military that become pilots, like all their training has been very robust and regimented. And you have to take a FAA approved test with a FAA approved examiner. Like all of the benchmarks and processes and evaluations are there. People just get complacent. They push weather when they shouldn't be in weather. They make dumb decisions. They don't make decisions. Like we had, unfortunately, when I was getting out, we had an aircraft crash and it killed two dudes in the back. Two pilots walked away, but two of my guys were killed, and it was stateside training issue. Pilot complacency.
Also in the
mechanical. A couple years later, one of my really good friends was killed overseas in a crash. It wasn't complacency. It was really bad weather. They weren't doing anything wrong. They just got themselves into a situation where I don't know the specifics of it because I wasn't there, but my gathering, it was just really, really bad weather.
Did they have a choice? Or are you saying they didn't have a choice?
They depends what I can't speak to that one specifically.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But the first one, the pilot had a choice. He made the wrong choice. And he killed two of my guys.
All right.
So
the reason, Christian, that I wanted to have you on again is you had a kick butt year in recruiting.
Great
and
year.
So anybody who drinks from a successful fire hose like you have, or you've helped other people drink from that fire hose, you've learned a lot. And so just give us the headlines on what you've achieved this past year.
Every day is a day of learning if you let it be. We have done, I have to go back and recount because we had a couple of offers come in this week. We've done at least 78 placements.
78 placements.
First year.
What's in your first year of biz? Nice. And how many have been in the landscape industry?
Ooh. It's been 3.
Okay. Should be more. That's why we're having you on here. Let's dive into this a little bit more. So 79, let's call it 80 placements. It'll probably be more by the time tomorrow comes around.
Yeah.
And what's the average length it takes you to find and place?
To find the individual, it's no more than 10 business days.
10 business days.
2 weeks. So the actual placement depends on their interviewing assessment process. Some We've had guys get hired. We had one 2 weeks ago where introduced on a Tuesday and he started the next Wednesday.
Yeah. What do you know what the total time to start average is?
I have it somewhere. I don't know off the top of my head. I would say it's probably 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Average.
Okay.
Sometimes sooner, sometimes some of these like higher end GM, COO ones will go 2 months, maybe 3 months, just depending on how they're vetting the individuals.
You've shared with me a graphic on, let's see, what was it? Sales, ops, and general management or CEO. Were those the three categories?
It was, I believe it was executive, which I would count, and this is all nuanced, right? Everybody has a different definition of what that would be. I would count executive as vice president, COO and above. Then there's operations / project management. That's the director of operations. So, some people I would call a director of operations what they maybe call a GM. Just depends on the owner. Project management, and then sales. So those three categories.
Well, GM though could be a COO, really.
Could be. Yeah, it depends. I mean, I've seen $300,000 a year GMs and $100,000 a year GMs.
Yeah. I understand. Some people call GM also somebody who's head of a division. They may call them GM of that division.
Right.
Gotcha. So what's the breakdown in terms of like percentages to those different categories?
14% sales, 45% executive, and then the balance of that was operations / project management.
Okay. The sales part's kind of intriguing.
Very.
Was that surprising for you?
Very. It was a repeat customer that came back and said, hey, can you find me a sales individual? And I knew some sales guys, but it wasn't certainly something I had on my bench. And then we started hunting and I uncovered a lot more than I expected. So yeah, that was a surprise. We've done 2 VP head of sales type roles, a couple sales manager roles in plumbing, foundation repair, and HVAC, and then individual sales roles we've got 2 we're working on right now that are in, these ones are still ongoing. 2 we're working on in artificial turf, done some in fencing as well. So yeah, that's been a pleasantly surprising category to unearth.
Yeah. So you've learned a lot in this past year.
Yeah.
Share some of your lessons.
I think the biggest lesson that you and I were talking about is owners understand that they need somebody, or leaders understand that they need somebody, and maybe they have a title in mind, but when asked, hey, what are the 5 outcomes that this person's going to deliver to you in a 12-month, 6-month, 90-day timeline, they don't know. Or they have some idea of what this person is doing, but not necessarily what they're delivering, and then how to go measure it. So where I've put a lot of effort is in that introductory call, getting what are the 5 outcomes you want this person to deliver, and how are you going to measure it? Because if we can identify those now, we can have a better assessment of the type of individual, and then also how you're going to interview them. Because I don't want to give you someone that you like them and you think they're a good fit and a good cultural fit, but they can't meet those outcomes and those timelines, because then we're back in the same spot having to do the search again.
Yeah.
So that's been the biggest surprise. And now some of my repeat clients, they just know that's what they have to come with. But in identifying those up front together, we've been able to narrow in and really present fewer candidates that are a better fit.
I've given, it's been a while, but I gave all of our clients in our Jeffrey Scott community the book Who. Like, that's the title, Who. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've read it, but it's all about executive recruiting. Oh. And in the book, They show you how to create a scorecard, very similar to what you're saying right here. It might be a good gift for you to give each of your clients.
That's a good one. I'm writing that down here. The way that I think about it, the framework I try to give them is come up with those outcomes, come up with those 3 to 5 outcomes. Now think about what are the attributes that are going to drive those outcomes. Everybody wants somebody with discipline. Everybody wants somebody with integrity. I mean, we could go on. There's attributes you want in everybody, but you have to really figure out what are the priorities that are going to drive the outcome in that role. So if you look at sales versus operations, the attributes that makes a very successful salesperson is not necessarily attributes that make a really successful operations manager, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So really narrow in on what those are. So you have the outcomes, the attributes that'll make that successful, and then a plan of how we're going to go and test it.
A plan pre-hire or post-hire?
Pre-hire.
Okay. Give me an example.
The example would be the case study is the most obvious one to me. And I had in the 160th assessment process, it's basically it's 7 to 9 day. I can't remember. I think it's 5 to 7 day. I think mine was 5 to 7 day case study. And they throw everything at you. They fabricate.
Hold on. You said case study, but now I realize you mean that's a Army term or a Special Forces term?
We didn't call it a case study then, but now when I look back at it, I was like, oh, that's all it was. It was 5 days of how can they fabricate the reality of the role that I'm going to hold? How do they fabricate the reality of it in a controlled environment that tests whether I'll be able to perform the role or not? And what ends up happening is let's say you get 20 people that start off, and you got 20 people with fantastic resumes and thousands of flight hours, really great backgrounds, all the great recommendations. But at the end, maybe only 1 or 2 of them make it. And it gets beyond what's on the surface level and gets down into, okay, who is this person? What are they made of? And can they meet the outcomes that we're going to be asking them to? And so I had a client who was hiring for a director of operations, chief of staff role. And they had 3 candidates. They had a Navy SEAL, Green Beret, and a civil affairs guy. Civil affairs is a small special operations unit. They go into the countries that, like Afghanistan or Syria, that we're at war with, and they go and befriend the local populace and build relationships. So then Green Berets and SEALs are pretty self-explanatory. Well, they had these 3 candidates, and they came to me and like, we like all of them, and we can't decide. We like things about every single one of them, and we can't decide which one we're going to choose. In our minds, it would be 1, 2, and 3. Okay, well, let's go do a case study. And so they chose a problem that this person was going to face in the role that they wanted them to solve. They gave them 3 days to prepare, and they had them come and brief it. Hey, this is what I thought. This is how I approach it. And they asked them questions. Well, in the process of going through the case studies and asking the questions, one of the individuals, the SEAL, he answered one question very specifically that instantly for them was, this is the guy. And it completely flipped their ranking. And now they had absolute clarity of, yeah, this is the guy. And he's 5 months into it and delivering as promised. So these case studies, we have found fabricating the reality of the role and the problems they're going to face and testing them in that. It's not about the answers that they come up with their approach, because they're still going to have to learn. This is like a mortgage brokerage. The Navy SEAL knew nothing about, he probably got a mortgage on his house, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So it becomes, all right, how does this person think? How does he approach? How do they handle pressure? And it really showed them, okay, yeah, this is the guy.
Okay. How many case studies or scenarios or problems do you give somebody in this when they go through this?
I think one is sufficient. I've seen more. I've seen 3, but I think one is sufficient because it's really an exercise and just trying to get to see how they think.
Yeah, I could see that for operations. I could see it for GM. For sales, though, and I could see it maybe for sales management. But it seems to me sales is very hands-on. Would you still do it that way, or how would you do it for sales?
That's a good question. We did have one placement. It was for a defense tech company, and they had 2 candidates. One guy had a lot of experience in sales outside the military, and the other really didn't. But the one who didn't came to the interview with a list of clients that he had already contacted that he thought would be a good fit for this company's product.
Nice.
And initial conversations and what he would do for follow-up to try to get to sell them in the first 90 days. He got the role. Yeah. So I think if you were to think about that and backwards plan, you could say, all right, you want this, you're interested in the sales job, and we sell commercial landscaping to HOAs. Who are you going after? What's your approach? What's your follow-up sequence?
Yeah,
how would
exactly.
How would you go about trying to close them? And they may come up with the wrong answer. They may choose the wrong targets, but if they really have a tight process on how they would pursue it and how they would follow up,
yeah,
that tells you more than, hey, so tell me about what you've done in sales.
I think that you have to put some effort. As I'm hearing you talk, you really have to think through the case study. Garbage in, garbage out, right? So you have to think through what you're going to give them so that when they give you the answers, it's telling enough.
Yep. It's what I did for my recruiter. So when I hired a recruiter, I had a lot of interest, a lot of people that wanted to get on part of what I was doing. And so I came up with a case study of, all right, you're given this territory, this geographic territory. What would be your plan of attack for the types of clients you'd go after based off of our past history, how you get in front of them, and then how you go source the candidates for them.
Okay.
And I had 50 people apply, and 5 people did the case. 5 people actually completed the case study.
So you did that as part of the interview process?
Yeah, I made it the whole thing.
Yeah. Right. That's good. It's a good screening process, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all right. So your first lesson number 1 is people they haven't thought through what they need and want from the position. What else have you learned surprisingly this year?
I think there's a lot to be said for, well, I think business owners generally either have a very positive experience with a recruiter or a terrible experience with a recruiter. And there's not really any in between. Yeah. The negative experience is, they came and they placed the role and they took the money and they did nothing to replace it. Or the positive experience. The positive experience for us has been clients just coming back for more and more. And it's turned into it's become more relational than I would have originally had considered. Like just this morning, I've got a large fencing company in Connecticut, and he texted me I was at the gym. He texted me at like 7:15, and so I got in the car and left, and he's already at that point where he needs that strong number 2. And so we just talked through what that looks like, and I don't need a job description with him anymore. Like we just talked about what are the outcomes, what's the comp, what's the profile, what's the long-term vision for this individual and for him, and then just to go out and find it. So we have the surprise has been how well, like some of my competition is really not that great. Some of my competition is another surprise is how much I talk to my competition. There are other military recruiters out there. I talk to those guys more than I talk to some of my employees.
because like just peer-to-peer networking.
Yeah, peer to peer. Yeah, it's been like the power, and I'm sure you see that in your business. But yeah, we're constantly talking through the same problem sets and how we would approach it. And yeah, I'd say that the surprise number 3 is like how much I talk to my competition on a daily basis.
That is interesting. I just started watching Homeland, believe it or not.
Homeland, isn't that that's an older show, isn't it?
Yeah, it totally is. And and one of the actors said to the other actors, there's no one else I can talk to about my experience except for a peer. And so certainly in your niche, I'm sure you just need to talk to other military people about as well, that whole combination.
Yeah.
Why should I want somebody from the military? Tell me what your domain of potentials, highly trained special forces. And by the way, working with you, I've learned, oh my God, these guys are highly skilled and highly trained. These are not, what's the derogatory term? Jarhead? I don't even know. But, these guys are highly, highly trained, skilled, educated, pretty impressive. So I don't know if that's one of your answers, but what do they bring that could really benefit, let's pick one of my clients, $10 million landscape contracting firm, snow, commercial maintenance. It's just an example.
Yeah.
Why one of your candidates? What's their, tell me a few uniques that they bring that the average hired simply doesn't have.
What we've seen across the board, and I think this is true of at least what I experienced in that community and what I'm seeing now with the guys that we're placing, is given a set of clear objectives, like they'll go figure it out. And they won't stop until they do. It's a lot.
So you're saying problem solving and initiative.
Yeah, problem solving and initiative, tenacity, and urgency, speed to move. I think one of the biggest things I've noticed just in now, like I've got a veteran on my team now, so I'm recruit from my own pool. We don't bring problems, we bring solutions. So there's never a, hey, I'm trying, what do you think I should do about this problem? It's hey, here's 3 potential solutions. Here's what I'm going to go do with it. Are you good with that? Or, hey, I encountered this, I already did this, and this is the feedback on what happened.
So I'm just going to make an assumption here. So the special forces already screens for people that think that way.
Yes. Yeah,
and then they're further trained that way.
Right. So if you go back to that assessment process I was talking about before the 160th, it's the same with Green Berets, Navy SEALs, all the attributes that you want in someone who can set clear expectations, hold the team accountable, and figure it out and not quit. All that's already been vetted just to get into the organizations which they came from. Like for the 160th, it comes down to integrity and quitting. They throw so much at you over and over and over and over again for those 5 to 7 days. They're just trying to get you to quit. And people do quit. You'll have pilots with thousands of hours and all the awards and everything on the 3rd day just say, yeah, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Interesting. I love that. Love hearing that.
So it truly is it's an attribute play of what are the attributes that you're looking for in someone who's going to bolster and lead the culture of your organization, and then couple it with the attitude and aptitude to learn quickly.
Yeah.
Those 78 placements, only 3 of those have had direct industry experience.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I was a B or C student. I like to say I graduated with a 5.0 if you put my high school and college together.
That's good.
Like seriously. But I literally remember telling myself, I'm not as smart as these kids here that I'm surrounded by, but I can make it up with perseverance. Like I literally remember telling myself or acknowledging that when I was younger, because, so many people I went to school with went off to got all these fancy degrees and went off and, who knows what happened to them. But I literally remember telling myself, I can out persevere them.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have gone into special forces.
Well, I would say, like, if I reflecting back on what made this year successful, what I think made this year successful from an execution standpoint is what I learned and the type of person that I had to become in the 160th. Like I'm a different. When I got out of the military, I was a different person than I was before I went into that community, because that being around those types of people and that type of mission set all the time, it forges you into a different person. And what I think has really made this year as successful it is everything that like the type of operator leader that I had to become there just applied to now.
What's one attribute of pre-military Christian that you've left behind?
I was pretty shy. I was pretty shy, pretty quiet, not that outgoing. And then I got forced into, I got forced into an environment where I had to recreate myself.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And so you recreated yourself. What's one post attribute now that you're proud to have that you didn't have before?
Not quitting.
Well, you must have come with that. Otherwise you would have.
Yeah, I think so, but never tested to, never truly.
Wait, give me another attribute since we've been talking about that one.
Ooh, tenacity.
Wait, isn't it the same thing?
Maybe. How about urgency?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'd blend urgency and not quitting in a way to make tenacity. That'd be at least my take on it, but definitely a sense of urgency.
Okay. I like that. I like how you've defined that word yourself. It's like when companies create their own values, I'm a firm believer that they have to take the words and create their own definitions. Yep. Here's what this means to us.
Yep. So
for you, tenacity is perseverance and urgency put together, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever your term was.
To me, there's an element of speed involved with tenacity. Yeah. And then that's a very good point. Yeah, I think that's your point about you having to define it for yourself is paramount.
Yeah.
You get to set the culture, so you might as well define it as clearly as you can.
Exactly. Give me one more. Okay, now we're going back to the original question of surprises. So you gave me surprises about the hiring clients, surprises about yourself in this role. Any other one more surprise?
Yeah, how some of these roles have been absolutely life-changing for the guys that were placing them. When you can match up a really quality owner and leader with one of these guys. I mean, it changes it for the business owner. There's my pitch, like change your life, hire one of these dudes. But really clearly how some of these roles have changed the trajectory of these guys' professional career. The first one I did before this was even really a company, we placed a former SEAL in a CEO role of a large building supply company, and the idea was he's going to be the CEO in 2 to 3 years, and it's been 10 months, and it's not going to be 2 to 3 years. So his professional trajectory has absolutely skyrocketed, and it's been really, really cool to watch that happen.
Hey, I have a client. I think I've been trying to connect you with them in the middle of Alabama somewhere not near a city or not near the biggest city.
Yeah.
So would one of your recruits want to go live in Podunk, Alabama?
I'm sure. There's a lot of land you can shoot guns on. Absolutely. Geography. Okay, there's another surprise. Geography hasn't really been a limiting factor for us. there has not been, we've gotten roles all over the place in podunk upstate New York and been able to find some really impressive individuals.
Do all your clients hunt? Or I'm sorry, all your candidates? Do all military
I think so. I mean, I would imagine. I'd say as far as demographically, statistically, yeah, probably.
Yeah. A lot of hunting up in New York for sure.
Yeah.
But all over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How do people get in touch with you, Christian?
A few ways. Very active on LinkedIn, very active on Twitter. Our website is uncommonelite.com. And you can go to the website, check us out there, or LinkedIn and Twitter have been, about a lot of our business just comes from those two channels right now.
Did you want to state, like, you have a URL?
Oh, www.uncommonelite.com.
And if they say they heard from you on this podcast, what are you going to do special for them?
Ooh, man, what are we going to do special for them? Give them a 5%. We'll give them a 25% discount. How about that?
That's an awful lot. We don't want you going on a vision. I think 5% is. We did not plan this, as you guys can tell.
I know.
Christian's winging it.
We'll do 10%. How about that?
Right.
10% discount, and just like every one of our customers, like we'll get it done. We'll get it done right.
Ever since I've been in business and business consulting, I really want small businesses to make money. I remember taking my wife shopping for a Le Creuset. Le Creuset, it's pots. It's the best. These are the best pots. And we went to the store where this guy had a huge inventory, and we're checking out, and my wife is sort of hemming and hawing, and he's like just throwing discounts at her, and I'm like, no. He just gave away all his profit to us so we would buy one of these pots, and I could just see it happening, and I felt bad for him. And I was like, no. This is good quality. We're going to pay what you're telling us.
Yeah.
And so, you got to have long-term relationships, which is why I think if you over-negotiate with vendors and then you lose them the next year, then you're starting all over again.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, one thing we have done is the companies that come back to us for more, we heavily discount follow-on searches. And as a result, we've had one company that we've done 6 or 7 searches for this year, another that we're on 5. And then, the gentleman called me this morning, that's number 4. So we do believe in trying to create a relationship where we do this in perpetuity.
Yeah, for sure. Christian, man, it's been great getting to know you. And you're going to come speak shortly at our executive retreat in Dallas.
Sure.
I don't think we've pressed the flesh, have we?
We have not. No, sir.
This will be good. One last question.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll take off here. I'm sort of colored because I have one client who has one ex-military working for him, and the guy is so buttoned up that he's really inflexible in a way. Like he probably wasn't special forces. I don't know. And so, and he's very militaristic, and I think he's too hard ass to his people, and it's not really great.
Yep.
Because he's too much of a arc stereotype of that, what an outsider might think of.
Yep.
And so are these, how often does that fit the reality, or are special forces really a cut above?
Yeah, I wouldn't really. Technically, it's a cut above, but there are roles in the military where that type of personality is needed. There are.
Yeah.
In the Special Operations Committee, that's not needed. And if you act like that, that's the quickest way to be shown the door.
Gotcha. Okay. Good answer. Christian, thank you very much. Happy New Year. And
New Year.
We will see you soon.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.